So I'm here at Ford International Airport, and I want to invite you to think back of the last time that you took a trip, that you traveled anywhere, particularly if you got on an airplane, because everything about the experience is just so stressful, right? From booking all the flights and the arrangements, packing yourself up, maybe packing the kids up. There's so much stuff to do, and there's so many distractions along the way. You've got to make sure the house is all locked up. Maybe you have to find a pet sitter or somebody to come over and feed your fish. You got to find a ride to the airport. You got to call up Pastor Kyle and say, hey man, can you give me another ride to the airport, right? He's always good for it. He can know that about him. There's so much stuff that's going on. And then you get to the airport and you got to like snake through TSA and hopefully it's not too crowded, because then you start to stress out about whether or not you're going to make your flight and then your connecting flight. And there's so much in the experience, but there's also that moment, right? There's like that moment when you make it through all of the lines and all of the checkpoints, and you finally get on the airplane, you find your seat and you sit down. The flight attendant starts like the pre-flight speech, you know what it is, and you can finally just take a breath and relax. Put your phone in airplane mode, because what's forgotten is what's forgotten. And you're not going to remember it now. There's no point in that. And for the first time in the entire trip, you can just simply be present. Listen, for the last few weeks at Encounter, we have been in a series called Leave Your Luggage. And the series is simple, is that as you're traveling through the Christmas season, we just want to encourage you to leave behind all of the baggage that Jesus never really asked you to carry in the first place. So maybe this looks like leaving behind hurry. Maybe it looks like leaving behind control or perfection. Leave that stuff all behind, because remember, Jesus never asked you to carry it in the first place. And today I want to invite you to leave behind distractions this Christmas. And listen, there's plenty to be distracted about. Even while you're watching me, you might find yourself distracted by what you're going to eat a little bit later this afternoon. You're going to be distracted of whether or not the Lions are going to beat the Bears today. As a heads up, they will. Don't worry about that. Cross that one off the list. You may be watching this thing on YouTube or Facebook, and I'm not so proud to admit that. There's probably 100 other things that are going to be vying for your attention while you're trying to focus on this thing. Listen, there's distractions out there, and it is a fight to focus. But it is worth the fight. And towards that end, I want to encourage you with these words from Psalm 46. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging. There's a lot of distractions and everything going on in that passage. A little bit earlier, I looked up the etymology, the root of that word distracted, and it literally means from a Latin word, to pull apart or to separate. And I think that's so powerful to recognize that as followers of Jesus, we have an enemy whose job it is to pull us apart from our Savior, especially at Christmas time. That we have an enemy whose job it is to divide our mind, to discourage our soul, to disengage our faith, and to distract us this Christmas from what matters most. Mountains are surging and falling into the heart of the sea all around us, things vying for our attention, for your attention. It's interesting that Psalm 46 was written probably after the Assyrian siege of Jerusalem in 701 BC. It's a fascinating story. Assyria was this global superpower led by King Sennacherib, and he was just gobbling up and taking over all of the cities around the ancient Near East, and he was exacting these heavy tributes from the cities he wasn't taking over. And King Hezekiah, on behalf of Jerusalem, said, hey, you know what? We're not going to pay that heavy tribute. So Sennacherib and the Assyrians said, okay, I guess it's time for us to take over Jerusalem. And so they surrounded the city of Jerusalem and laid siege to it. And this thing could last up to years. This one was probably weeks, maybe even months. Siege, nothing in, nothing out, just waiting Jerusalem out until they would finally surrender. And what's fascinating about this story is that we get the perspective from both sides. Historians and archaeologists dug up the writings of Sennacherib and the Assyrians, and he wrote, we surrounded Jerusalem and we trapped old King Hezekiah in Jerusalem like a bird in a cage. And Sennacherib even also said that he got a little bit of tribute out of Hezekiah, but he never says what happened to the city. He never says whether or not he took it over or not. For that, we have to go to Hezekiah's perspective, and you can read about it in 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles. As Hezekiah tells the story, God showed up and saved the city. Listen, again, you can read the whole story later, exactly how God showed up, not for today. But the point is that even though the earth was giving way and the mountains were falling in the heart of the sea, it was disaster all around for these residents of Jerusalem, God showed up. And he gave them even the courage to finish the psalm with these words from 10, "Be still and know that I am God." Listen, I don't know what your mountains falling and earth giving way is, but there's a lot to choose from this Christmas. When you open up that credit card bill in January, it might feel a little bit like the earth had just given way beneath you. When you have all the family drama around the Christmas parties, right? That one relative, the brother-in-law who never brings anything, never contributes anything except for a little empty Tupperware to take home the leftovers, all of the drama all around. It might feel like the rivers and mountains are quaking and surging. When this Christmas doesn't look anything like any Christmas you've ever had, because of loss or tragedy, listen, I want you to know, when the earth gives way and the mountains are falling over, you have a God who says, "Be still and know that I am God." So this is my hope for you this Christmas, that with all the financial and family drama, the emotional baggage, all through it, that a little bit later tonight at Fulton Heights and Tuesday at Kentwood, when we celebrate Christmas together, the birth of a Savior together, that you can walk into the room, find your seat, put your phone in airplane mode, take a deep breath, and know that Jesus is God. We'll see you tonight, and Merry Christmas.